All right, so let's talk about breathing. And first off, you could say, hey, Michelle, you're wearing a very unprofessional shirt. And I'm telling you, I put this on purpose because we don't want to suck. We don't want to suck when we breathe. We want it to be really light and easy nasal breathing. When you breathe, you want to feel like your lungs are going in all directions so that we're not doing this when we're breathing, but you feel your lungs expand your rib cage out, forward and back, as well as your abdomen. Because what's happening is your diaphragm, which is under your rib cage, contracts, and that opens up space for the lungs to fill up with oxygen. And the reason we want it to be nasal breathing is because the nose helps filter our air. So it takes out particles that could get trapped and cause us to get sick. It also warms up the air, which helps us improve oxygen exchange. The other thing we know is if we're nasal breathing and it's light and airy and we can't hear it, that means we're pretty relaxed, and we need to be a little bit more relaxed throughout the day. We shouldn't be breathing like this up into our shoulders because that's a very stressful way to breathe. And if we're always stressed out, our body is always in flight or fight mode, and that's not a great way to live. The other thing is we want it to be nasal breathing. I was a mouth breather most of my life. My parents were smokers. I didn't like the smell of it, and I was always congested, so I became a mouth breather. And nobody really told me all of the things. They said nasal breathing was better. They said the warming of the air thing. I'm like, I can't do it. But the things they didn't tell me that I've learned more recently is that children that are nasal breathers generally have better teeth. A lot of times, because when we're mouth breathing, especially at night, our jaw goes back. That can lead to overbites. It can also lead to teeth crowding and malalignment, because in nasal breathing, our tongue should sit on the roof of our mouth, and if we're mouth breathing, it probably isn't. So then the upper jaw can grow more narrowly than if it was nasal breathing. So a couple things to kind of look at in your kids. If they're mouth breathing a lot, maybe encourage them to nasal breathe, make sure they're not congested, and see where that leads. I can tell you that as I've practiced more nasal breathing throughout my life, I feel like my jawline and my overbite has been a little bit better, and my teeth are not necessarily changing, but I think that if I were to look at old x-rays, and I don't know if my dentist has them, there might be some changes there. So to find out if you're doing well at breathing, we can do something called the Bolt test. And if you want to do this test, definitely after I explain it, hit pause, do it, and then come back. We're not going to do it during the video because it takes a little too long. The Bolt test is best done after a great night's sleep. So it's best to do it early in the morning. And you can also repeat it throughout the day, just as a general check-in to see how your body is doing with tolerating carbon dioxide. And it could be used as a stress indicator. So to do the Bolt test, we're going to take 3 normal nasal breaths in and out through our nose. And on the third breath, you're going to breathe all your air out and then plug your nose and hold for as long as possible until you start feeling the sudden urge to breathe. So these could be things like abdomen contractions or just strong burning. It's not to the point where maybe when you were a kid, you were having contests with your friends to see who could hold the breath the longest and almost pass out. We don't want to get to pass out stage, but we're going to count how many seconds you can hold your breath. So score-wise, if you are under 10 seconds, that's really not so great. Definitely something you might want to talk to your doctor about and check your pulmonary function. 10 to 20 seconds, not so good, but with a few drills and practice and being more aware of nasal breathing, you may be able to improve. 20 to 30 is pretty good score. We can still improve more through practicing more nasal breathing, and anything over 30 is really great. It means you're really able to tolerate carbon dioxide well. So why is tolerating carbon dioxide important? Well, carbon dioxide, we already know, is a waste product. It's a waste product of a lot of things, a lot of different metabolic things. And one of them is the process by which we're burning fat. So you're not actually burning fat through treadmill work or strength work. It actually comes out through breathing. So if we breathe better, we can burn more fat. Kind of cool. The other thing it does is if we can tolerate carbon dioxide longer, it's kind of simulating high altitude training, which means that we don't get as sore as early in exercise. So that delayed onset muscle soreness or the lactic acid buildup that we kind of cause pain in our muscles from prolonged exercise, if we're breathing well, we can get all of those byproducts out through our carbon dioxide. That is actually going to help us tolerate those types of things better. So what are the things we can do to help improve our breathing? So number one, we want to breathe through our nose most of the time. And that includes at night. A lot of people mouth breathe when they sleep. And it's something we really can't notice unless, we're snoring and our partner wakes us up, or we wake up with dry mouth. Those are some signs. But the thing that I've done, and I know it sounds crazy, is tape my mouth shut. So if your mouth's taped shut, you're kind of forced to breathe through your nose. And I'll be honest, the first time I did it, it was kind of scary, and I kind of had a little bit of it wasn't really a panic attack. I don't want to be dramatic, but it was a little bit nervous. But as I practice it more, it got easier. And now I think I can almost do it without the tape, but I still wear the tape. I know it's not really sexy, to help me improve better. The things that I've noticed from taping my mouth shut at night while I sleep is I wake up with not having dry mouth. I used to have chronic dry mouth. The dentist said that, use Biotine, and no, it didn't really make a difference. I still always woke up with dry mouth. Well, I was always breathing through my mouth, and so it was taking all the moisture out. I also started dreaming more deeply. I was getting better sleep. I know it's crazy, but it's a more restful sleep. You're not being interrupted by possible periods of apnea. Like if my tongue gets caught back there, I might stop breathing tiny bits. I don't really know. I can't. My dogs won't tell me how I sleep. During the day, we want to be nasal breathing. If you notice that you're mouth breathing, just close your mouth. Put your tongue up on the roof of your mouth and nasal breathe. If you find that you're a chronic sigher, or you go ha ha, like when you talk a lot, those are both signs of air misuse. So those are times where we really want to focus a little bit more on nasal breathing. The exercise to try is breathe light to breathe right. And in this one, you do some walking, just general regular breathing. You can do a certain number of steps, regular breathing, then hold with a nasal breathing and pinch your nose. I know the pinching nose part is kind of weird in public. I don't do the nasal pinching part when I'm in public because people look at you weird. But then you want to continue your walking pace for as long as you can until you get those contractions, and then resume nasal breathing. We don't want to then start huff puffing through our mouth. That's not really the best way to breathe. The other one is to practice more nasal breathing while we exercise. This includes cardio. Doing nasal only cardio on like a bike, elliptical, or jogging is a lot harder than it sounds, but really can expand our possibilities. We want to take that breathe light to breathe right mentality right into exercise. So a couple options on taping your mouth shut. There's these fancy tapes. So actually your mouth would be open. You'd be able to mouth breathe if you wanted. I'm really weird, and I just use surgical tape. I'm single, so it doesn't really matter. That's just a joke. I don't know what I would do, but it is something that helps me sleep, and it optimizes my performance. So I'd probably keep on doing it. Those are just a few thoughts on nasal breathing. If you have any questions or you want to learn more about it, hit me up and I will answer your questions.